music. And the person was asking the psychologist, why is it music sometimes brings tears to my eyes? So I don't remember what he said, but it just taps into, it taps into way back when we didn't have words, when we just had grunts and moans, and there was music, and there was singing, and then in instruments, and so we get to use our imagination, right? When there's no lyrics, we get to let it take us where it takes us. So thank you so much. All right. Woo! So Ralph Waldo Emerson said, what we can conceive and believe, we can achieve, right? And in Unity, what we call that the law of mind action. Okay? The law of mind action, spiritual law of mind action, is thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. And my favorite story about this is that in 1997, in August of 1997, I was hosting the president and CEO of Unity Worldwide Ministries and his wife. And his wife wanted to go to the flea market, important stuff to do. And so we went out to the flea market, and we got there just as it closed, so we couldn't go in. So I said, well, as long as we're on this end of town, I want to take you out to this area called Las Campanas and show you how the beautiful scenery from out there and all this stuff. So we drove right by here. It was La Tierra Road then. Remember the 2-lane road? And we drove out, and we looked, and then we came back, and I saw this building. And I said, there's Unity Santa Fe. The words just came out of my mouth. And so Glenn slammed on the brake and turned down this little dirt road, and the building was, and it said for lease, I think, on the main road. But when we got here, there was actually a for sale sign. And, I looked inside. It was this Middle Eastern grocery store, delicatessen. But anyway, a year later, it was Unity Santa Fe. We bought it, and then we in the bank. And then a year later, we moved in. In fact, we've got to note this. Where's Wanda? May 15th will be the 20th anniversary of our first service in this building. And the way I see it related to the law of mind action is that apparently everybody that drove by this building thought it was a church. Because it was designed, it didn't have a bell tower then in the classrooms, but it was designed to look like a northern New Mexico church. It was intentionally designed to look like that. And so I believe that everybody thought it was, and therefore it had no choice but a church. And we were the ones that stepped up to the plate and said, let's do this. And it took us about a year of deliberation, because there were people concerned that we couldn't afford it, and there were people concerned that it was too far out in the sticks, and the staff would not be safe out here alone, and there was all kinds of, the imagination. That's one of the power of imagination, is that we can use it for negativity or for positivity, right? Because, and that's what, some people did. But it just kept coming back. We had a church search team. They couldn't find anything else. This was the only game in town. Anyway, one thing after another, we finally said yes. And we stepped out in faith, and look where we are. In fact, come to the annual meeting, and you'll hear the exciting news about where we are on our pledge campaign that comes to, we have all the pledges already, but where we are with our pledges that have come in and the balance we have left, you're going to be just dazzled. So you got to come next week to find that out, right in this very room. So the human condition is, as I said, that we can use the power of imagination, which, by the way, is located, I think of it, the third eye. Charles Fillmore said between the eyes, but I think you really meant between the eyebrows. So it's the third eye, you know, imagination. That's where it's located in the body. And the color is light blue, which is why I got out my Wendy Bloomberg dress and wore light blue today. By the way, next week is gold. So you want to wear gold next week to build that energy of the power that we're working on. So, so the human condition is that we can use it for negativity. We can use it, and that's when we use it from our sense consciousness, our personality. We can use it for lack and limitation. But the spiritual solution to that human condition is that we can use it for positivity and abundance. Okay? It's our choice. But we have to be conscious how we're using our imagination. What are we imagining is going to happen? You know? I like to use that example of, like I was in Palm Beach last week, week before last, for a few days vacation. And I went to an open house with my friend, and the house had been 42 million, and they had knocked it down to 35 million. Okay? And so there's this old part of me that says, I can't imagine being able to buy a $35 million home. Well, guess what? If I can't imagine it, it ain't ever going to happen. Okay? So we have to be really careful about how we use the power of imagination. And so we can use it for our highest good, and that means we have to use it consciously. It's like our thoughts. You know, as we speak, then we're calling forth, we're putting out a vibration, we're claiming whatever we say. You know? And likewise, we're claiming whatever we believe, whatever we see. That's the law of mind action. And it does, you know, it doesn't happen just from these little tiny little imaginations and thoughts we have. It's those ones we give power to, right? Last week we talked about power. And when we put power behind our imagination, whether it's fear or zeal and enthusiasm, it doesn't matter. It works. And this power of imagination is inherently ours. You know, many years ago, I had such a hard time with the 12 powers, trying to learn them, trying to understand them. And, you know, someday I will. I keep doing talks on it because it helps. Sorry about that. So, I was trying to find one of those ways of remembering the 12 powers and the colors and all of that stuff and where they are in the body. And so I came up with this, through my imagination, a picture of a blue unicorn sitting on a bar stool. Okay? So there was a light blue unicorn. So this morning, all of a sudden I saw this light blue unicorn. It just stuck in my mind. And because it's Bartholomew, is a disciple that represents the power of imagination. So that's why the unicorn was at the bar, and of course we know why it was a unicorn and not just a regular horse, right? So the imagination does wonderful things. In fact, when I think of somebody that I really have been inspired by so many times over the years, that really embraces the power of imagination and demonstrates it, it's Unity's poet laureate, James Dillard Freeman. How many of you have heard of James Dillard Freeman? Okay, well, every Sunday we say a version of the prayer for protection, because James Dillard Freeman is also known as the poet laureate of the moon, because two of his poems are on the moon. The Prayer for Protection and a wonderful poem called I Am There. I Am There. They were each taken by different astronauts on different missions to the moon. And so here's what he said. He said, my imagination and I have had an off and on love affair that began before I can remember. We love one another, and sometimes we can't draw apart, but sometimes we can't get together. Sometimes I come running after her, demanding that she tell me what's going on. Sometimes she comes running after me, demanding that I listen to what I would rather not hear. I learned long ago that I can't tell her what to say. I have to ask her what she wants. Then I have to listen closely and quickly put down what she tells me. Sometimes, to my wonder and surprise, there springs forth like sparks from a divine fire, visions of faith, insights of love, truths that I had no forethought of. And he says, sometimes when I stop writing, I feel that I am floating 8 feet above the floor and can't get down. The power of imagination. And I can relate to that because recently, we both attended, right, a writing workshop with Natalie Goldberg and Ann Philmeyer at Southwestern College. And now I've continued and I'm going to a writing group once a week. And we get these prompts, and based on the prompts, we just write. And I'm just constantly amazed at what I don't know, because I just write and this stuff comes out of my pen that's like, wow, I didn't know I knew that, you know? And it's, again, the imagination that takes that prompt and then, you know, puts flesh on it and brings out whatever it is probably that I need to be working on this week or whatever. So, James L. Freeman said quite a bit about imagination in the book New Thought for a New Millennium. And we used to have copies of that. I don't know if we still do in the bookstore. It's one is saying yes. So it's called New Thought for the New Millennium, and James Dillard Freeman wrote the chapter on imagination. And there's a different chapter written by different people on each of the 12 powers, including an introduction by Marianne Williamson, who led a Unity Church for a while. So if you want more juicy stuff about imagination from James Dillard Freeman, I recommend that book. And then I ran across several quotes, and they're all by the same person. So I'm going to give you 3 quotes, and I want you to figure out who said these. Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world, stimulating progress, giving birth to evolution. That's the first quote. The second quote, logic will get you from A to Z. Imagination will get you everywhere. And the third one, imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions. So who do you think said that? Albert Einstein said all 3 of those. So, you know, we have it on good scientific basis, the power of imagination and how important it is. So you don't have to believe me, you don't have to believe Unity, you can believe Albert Einstein maybe. And then I saw this picture on Facebook that I didn't want to stress the team out to try to come up with on the big screen, so I'll describe it. There's a man named Francis Romero, and he was in a coma in the hospital. And he had a little white dog, and they allowed the dog to stay with him day and night. And so there was a picture of the dog where he apparently laid all day long with his face right next to his beloved Francis, you know, pressing against his face. And after a month, Francis woke up from the coma with these words, "Where is the white angel who constantly whispered that everything would be all right?" Wow. The power of imagination. Power of imagination. And I want to close with what James Dillard Freeman wrote in a book entitled The Hilltop Heart. It's also included in that chapter in New Thought for a New Millennium. He said, at its end, I stood on the hilltop that is my heart, and I had this vision of the world we are on our way to bringing forth. He wrote, if we just keep at the task, the human world defined that this man-God, God-man in us can grasp and shape if he but will. A world where the battle is not of men against men, but of man against the darkness. A world where brutality becomes brotherhood. A living world, a happy world, a world of works undreamed of, a world that is a fitting habitation for the human heart and mind. A world where nations cooperate with one another and compete with one another, not out of the craving for conquest, but like runners in a race who compete out of the desire to excel. The world for all people, where all people have a chance to develop the potential they were born with. A world for you and I are free to live as we will, where we will live for one another. The world for which the Master dreamed when he said, "Ye are gods, children of the Most High." He concluded by writing, what we conceive today, what we imagine with hearts and minds full of faith and love and strength will be. We will have made it so. We get what we really, really believe. So how do we use these, any of the 12 powers actually? But today I want to focus on imagination. How can we use it? How can we use it in prayer and meditation? Well, we use affirmations, and you have some of those on your handout, and I will be using those in our prayer today. We can use the affirmations to quicken and develop our power of imagination in our daily meditations and throughout the day. We can use imagination to start our day, to start a meeting, to start any activity, to deal with any situation by just being still and calling forth, in this case, the power of imagination, focusing on the third eye, and asking to see how imagination can support you in this situation. How can imagination support me right now in this situation? Because that's the practicality of the 12 powers. You know, how can I, and sometimes we use them in prayer chaplaincy. What power is this prayer request asking you to have called forth? And then notice, when you are using the power of imagination, from sense consciousness, personal consciousness, and shift to using it with spiritual understanding. So I absolutely celebrate that as we leave this service, each one of us is willing to really step up and call forth and to more fully develop our spiritual power of imagination so that we can image, envision, conceptualize, and dream beyond our wildest dreams. And let's begin doing so right now in a sacred time of shared prayer. So I invite us to begin, as we always begin, by just focusing on the breath. Allowing the breath to find its own rhythm and pace. Allowing it to dissolve into the nothingness from which it came, anything unlike life. Unlike any of the 12 powers. And with your inner vision, focusing on your third eye, hold the picture of radiant Christ light flowing from the top of your head, through the face center in the pineal gland, to be released as spiritual power from the third eye. And starting with the first level, these 7 levels of development of our power of imagination, I invite you to repeat after me these positive, imaginative affirmations. And again, just breathing as if you're breathing in and out through the third eye. The first level is cleansing. And the affirmation is, I erase from the screen of my mind all false images. I erase from the screen of my mind all false images. Together?
I erase from the screen of my mind all false images.
Consideration. I reflect on pictures in keeping with my spiritual goals. I reflect on pictures in keeping with my spiritual goals. Together?
I reflect on pictures
in keeping with my spiritual goals. Discrimination. Under God's direction. Together?
under God's direction.
I sort out the images in my mind.
I sort out the images in my mind.
I keep the good and discard the false.
I keep the good and discard the false.
Observation. I observe good in action in my world. I observe good in action in my world.
I observe good in action in my world.
Beholding. I behold the Christ in myself. Together.
I behold the Christ in myself.
And in all others.
And in all others.
And in all situations.
And in all situations.
Discernment. I accept spiritual insights from God. I accept spiritual insights from God. And the deepest level, vision. My eye is single to the good.
My eye is single to the good.
And then just hear these words as if spoken by you to you through my voice. I am the spiritual power of imagination, claiming my divine identity. I call forth within me my rightful divine capacities, pouring them out in fulfillment of my purpose. I have eyes to see the good within me. I have eyes to see the good in others. I have eyes to see the good around me. I have eyes to see the good path ahead of me. Whatever seems impossible, by my power of imagination, I declare, all things are possible. And we know this together in the silence. And as we gently bring our attention back to this time and place, silently say, thank you, divine nature of my true essence, for the spiritual power of imagination, the energy that enables me to image, envision, conceptualize, and dream. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That it is so, and so it is, and so I am. Amen.